Happy Halloween! Okay, people, welcome back to another Fwoosh review. Oh, yeah. Today, let's take a look at the Hasbro Star Wars Black Series GameStop exclusives Gaming Greats Battlefront II Umbra Operative ARC Trooper, Jet Trooper, and then the Jedi Fallen Order Nightbrother Warrior. Nailed it. It just felt like a Star Wars kind of week, because after several months of looking at my GameStop pre-orders going, these are kind of piling up, boys. What's going on? This week, GameStop answered, here you go. Shut the hell up. Yes, they are repaints. Yes, there's a lot of reuse here. But I'm on record as saying that I love troopers. And yes, I consider the Nightbrother Warrior a trooper because there were many of them in Jedi Fallen Order. With the clones, that's the name of the game. There's different markings, different platoons, different squads, different sources. You change up the paint job, you give them some extra tweaks. I'm in. Looking at the package, it's our standard Star Wars Black Series packaging at this point. Got some black. Got some darker black. Window showing most of what you're getting. The color scheme for the Gaming Greats. Warning, choking hazard, small parts. Do I even have to say it anymore? Don't put it in your mouth. On the side, artwork for each character. It's 5, 6, and 9. So these two go together. You can see the artwork kind of travel down into this picture. But this one's going to be way over here. On the back, that artwork again. Bios for each character. Don't put them in your mouth in other languages. And then includes different things. On the other side, more window, more logos, more black. On the top, there's that shine down window. Ooh, look at that. You can get it like this. And somebody mentioned it in the comments for the last video. It would be an interesting display to have LED lights on the just carded collection. That makes it feel even fancier. On the bottom, barcodes, more legalese, but let's get these open, starting with the Jet Trooper. I was gonna say mostly because we know what's going on here, but we kind of know what's going on with all three of these. When it comes to the Jet Trooper, I am enamored. I'm intrigued by the mix and match of parts that they've been doing with more recent troopers. Right out of the package, you see the double elbows, you see the double knees, and you think, oh, this is just reuse of the original clone trooper, which had its problems. You could see the bow-leggedness, which I could fix with some heat probably. The hips weren't great, the elbows didn't have a lot of range to it, and then the neck was essentially up and down. Oh, well, side to side too, but absolutely no tilt. You get closer and you start seeing some differences. What is reuse is the abs down to the crotch, which is one piece, I think, with a separate belt over it. Same thing over here. The legs are the same feet, kind of looking like there's not a lot of ankle behind it, but they did resculpt the knees to give it more meat on the bottom. Same hands on both sides. Same arms, but they used the modified elbows from Captain Rex. That way you get much nicer range. Then Hasbro took the torso and helmet from the new Trooper. That gives it double ball at the top of the neck, ball at the bottom. The butterfly joints from the new Trooper have been taken out of this Jet Trooper. There's a little gap, but then the shoulders on that old clone is bigger, so it fills in the space a bit. I really do like the new clone Trooper. It has a flow to it, but I can't agree with the people who say the shoulder pads are too small, and it's not quite as bulky as the original. Then that had its proportion problems and lack of range of movement. This new amalgam of parts is the best of both worlds. It's got the big shoulder pads, it's got the range of movement, it's got the proportions. It's just a good mix with the bulk of this one and the sleekness of this one. In fact, we've seen it before with Hawk. This is the same mix of parts, and I liked it then. But it also has the same problem as Hawk, where the shins are reversed. You can see how the leg comes down to the knee and then kicks into the leg, and then on the inside it comes down, kicks out, and goes down. And it's even more obvious with these triangles. That is not even near centered. Plus just the shape. There's a kick in on the outside. And I don't remember ordering 2 of these, but I received 2, so last night I was able to play around, swap them out, and you can see that the triangles are now centered on the knee pads. The legs now kick down straight on both sides of the knee, and it just feels more natural. Here, you can see something's wrong. You may not catch it at first, but there's a feeling. Why is that awkward? But then you make that swap, and it just feels like, really like a dude in armor. So to fix that, all I did was heat up the legs, pop this pin out, swap the legs here, and then you have to come back, swap the feet. I'm kind of glad I got 2 of them, because the one I opened last night, the shoulder pad is glued down into the groove of the shoulder. There's wrinkles right there, and they pushed it down so hard that it looks dinged, it looks pinged. On the one I just opened, they're evenly spaced away from the shoulders, nicely glued on, smooth, very uniform. This one's been in a little battle. They're jet troopers, they're flying around, you know, maybe every now and then. So So this one I can dirty up. He's been in the thick of it, down in the mud and the blood and the beer. This one can be clean, and then I'll have 2 different troopers. Paint nicely applied all over. When it comes to these straight, solid lines, it's easy to mess up. We've seen clone troopers with the tampos off. I mean, if you got really, really close, you could probably see blemish or some kind of fuzzy lines, some bleed in places. On your shelf, in normal lighting, at normal distance, it's probably never going to see it. Like right there. What is that? Even the elbows have a little paint on them. Going over articulation with the dumbbell joint at the top of the neck with the ball at the bottom, you can get some up, some down. Oh my god, so much tilt. Side to side. Pin out to the shoulder, rotates all the way around. Hinge at the shoulder with this shoulder pad glued all the way down. It rides into the torso, so you can get even slightly past 90. Swivel at the bicep, double elbow, nice range to it. Swivel at the wrist, up and down hinge on a trigger finger hand, side to side on the left. Ball joint or dumbbell at the mid-torso, gets a little hula hoop. Back, forward, tilt, yeah, a little bit. Rotation. Ball coming out to the hip, comes up. The armor is going to run into itself, so if you twist a bit, you can get up to there. Back, out, right there. That's all you're getting. Swivel at the thigh, nicely hidden by the armor. Double knee comes up to there. It still has that strap coming up between it. Still not bad for a clone. Hinge at the ankle goes not a lot of back. This armor comes all the way down. Does hinge forward though, and then front facing pin for rocker. For accessories, comes with the standard clone blaster. We've seen this a few times before. Nice sculpt, no paint. Not the softest, but you can get some flex to the fingers. Put that in there. Turn and... Why is that so long? Get in there. There you go. Then there's also the jetpack. We've seen this a couple of times before, but the first time we saw it was Jango Fett. Which makes sense. The game did model the jetpacks off Jango's. It's in a nice white, blue, and gray color scheme to match the clone. So much reuse, they left the tabs that plug into Jango that actually don't go anywhere on this trooper. Round peg plugs in and goes really, really far. And really, really tight. Which is okay. You can mess around with it and it's not gonna fall off. Those tabs just kind of hang out up there. And this looks great. This weapon is used in the game, but man, doesn't the Jet Trooper use like a rocket launcher sometimes? You're up, raining fire down. Clone. James Clone. Next up, let's take a look at the Nightbrother Warrior. You stand there. Oh, and it's kind of... What are you doing, Darth Maul? Get out of there. And this is very striking with the yellows and the blacks and the whites and the browns. This is going to stand out in a display. Now you can come in. But it is obviously reuse of that 50th anniversary comic book style Sith Apprentice Darth Maul. In fact, I'd say it's a safe bet. This was made simply to make this. Don't get me wrong, it's Darth Maul. Different versions. It's going to sell, but... it seems more appropriate for the Nightbrothers from Jedi Fallen Order. I'm not going to complain. There is a new waist overlay though. This sash with the buckle on it, what does that buckle do? It's not holding anything together. It's just metal in the middle of some wrap. And then the hangy down, very similar, but it's a different sculpt altogether. Rough and ragged down at the edge, even more apparent on the back. And then there's a new head, which is totally appropriate, and I appreciate it because they could have went with just a repainted Darth Maul, and the yellow may have been enough to change it up, but being a new sculpt, yeah, I like that. Plus we get the bigger crown of thorns that are very sharp. I'd be careful of that too, especially if you're going to put this thing in your mouth. But where Darth Maul is showing his not so pearly whites, the new one has just a closed mouth. That's where we get into talking about the paints and such, because on the torso, it's rough looking, but there's still a symmetry to it. It's got more of that down here, going from the forearm down to the hand, which we actually didn't get on Darth Maul, because you go back to the comic and he did have tattoos there. Same on this side, nicely applied. Get to the head, and I like it for the most part. It's got this rough, almost Darth Maul-like quality to it, but it's changed enough to make you think, oh, this ain't Darth Maul. You know, besides the yellow. It's the yellow markings around the mouth that really stand out at me. Now, it was that way in the promotional images, and I don't remember if I noticed it, but having it in hand now, it's super noticeable. My brain is throwing a fit about how this should be in the same position as this triangle. This could be turned and then centered on the mouth, and then this line coming up on the lip, and this thicker line over here compared to the smaller line over here. But if you go to one of the more prominent pictures in Google search, it appears that is correct, at least at first glance. And they even have the artwork on the package matching with this line here and this off to the side a bit. and this turning and then coming around the chin. This one touching the lip, this one not so much. But I think that picture from Google has him snarling. That side of his mouth is higher than the other, so it's kind of distorting the tattoos, you know, like skin moving. And they replicated that here, but it is very hard to see that one side of the mouth is higher than the other. And even then, the tattoos are even more distorted than the sculpt or the snarl calls for. Looking past that, though, the eyes peering out from the black and yellowness, I really, really like it. Just kind of creepy. And then that lighter yellow on top of the darker yellow plastic. Oh yeah, it just adds... well, it's a video game character, but it adds just a little bit more realism to it. Then that also highlights the plainness of the legs, where there's no paint wash. It's just kind of relying on the natural shadows. I'd like to see some dirty grittiness down here too. Messing around with it more though, especially this, you're going to get some traffic cone, because it's split here and here and here, but not all the way up, and it's not the softest material in the world. With Darth Maul, it was split all the way up to the belt on both sides, so you could still raise the legs. Here, you can kind of get in between there. Even forcing it, it's about right there. But this looking ragged down here works in our favor, because we can just cut up to here, and even if it's rough, it fits in with the design. Cut here, which actually, that looks like extra plastic anyway. Cut here, and cut here. Going over articulation, there is a... again, those are very sharp. Be careful of those. There is a dumbbell joint at the top of the neck with a ball down at the bottom. And look up and look down. Look at the range of that neck. Damn. Oh, there's my tilt. Yeah. Left and right. It's just a natural movement. And yeah, we saw it with Darth Maul, but seeing it again, that's not bad. Butterfly at the shoulder goes forward, goes back. Pin out to the arm rotates all the way around. Hinge at the shoulder. Up. Hinge and swivel at the elbow comes up past 90 and then rotates. Swivel at the wrist with a hinge in and out. Ball, maybe dumbbell gets some hula hoop action and some rotation. Ball coming out to the hip. Like I said, this is kind of restrictive, but leg comes up, leg goes back. Ow, hey, it's better than that clone. Swivel at the thigh. Double knee comes up. About right there. And if you push too hard, you'll stress the plastic on the back. Hinge at the ankle goes back, forward, front-facing pin for rocker. For accessories comes with this mace, and it's been a while since I've played Jedi Fallen Order, but I like the Darth Mauledness of this, the Dathomir-ness of this. Got the spike going up in the middle. The wraps that match the aesthetic of the figure, kind of, you know, willy-nilly in places. Tiny spikes here. In case you miss with this, you're still going to get a little bit of boom. If nothing else, you got a tooth of some kind on the end for stabby stabbing. Flex the hand out a bit, and since this was Darth Maul, doesn't have much of a problem dual wielding a weapon. And then finally, let's look at the Umbra Operative ARC Trooper. I have no attachment to this. I just saved it for last because that is an awesome looking paint job. I didn't even know this existed before this figure was announced. It's been even longer since I've played Battlefront. This almost reminds me of if Frank Castle was a clone trooper at Halloween. That's what I'm going with. Oh, and gaze upon this mean looking bastard. Not only is it the bulkiness of the gear on a clone trooper, making it an ARC trooper, but it's the color scheme, the blacks and the oranges. It just has that, you know, sinister feel, but also playful. You think, you know, October 31st, but it still skews jack-o'-lantern a bit. So yeah, he's gonna make a joke and then shoot you in the head. This is complete reuse of the Target exclusive ARC Trooper Echo. Same helmet, same belt setup with the comma and the pouches and the holsters, same arms, same legs. The only noticeable difference besides the color scheme is they swapped the ammo pouches over to the right. Wish they had painted these buttons. Would have been cool to have just a tiny splash of color breaking up all the black and orange. Keeping with that, unlike the Jet Trooper, there's a roughness to the orange, but it's on purpose, which works in Hasbro's favor because they can be rough. It can be missing in places. It can be bleeding over because that's part of the actual paint scheme. But the clean parts are clean, like down here at the comma. And the design actually matches some of the pictures I found on Google, like this splash up into here, or where it's missing, and then this kick out here and this point. But comparing to that picture, it seems like this plate should come down a little further. But like most Black Series, it's taking a game design or a cartoon design and putting it into the realm of realistic. I don't know why I'm rubbing back there. That's me making a point. The elbow pads and the knee pads are a slightly darker orange because I think they're cast in that color. And then the orange paint is over black. So that stands out slightly, but it's not terrible. Paint in the squares on the shins, coming up over the foot. Like I said, that new ARC Trooper gear with the pouches and everything, the gear, the holsters. Have the new Trooper arms with the single hinge and swivel that has this wrapped around it. So when you bend it, you do get some pinchiness. Go too far, it'll start to tear into it. But I like the new sculpted forearms with the squares on this side and the rocket on this side. The torso gear, the chest plate is a separate piece laying over a clone body going up to these shoulder pads. Have a nice leather texture to it. Those go back and pin into this pack on the back. Have the silver paint to it just to have the details jump out at you a bit against the black color scheme. And that is glued into the back. There's no removing that. Oh, and then there's the helmet too. It is changed from the new style Trooper helmet. The swoop back here and the rangefinder. And man, that black and orange paint job just completely works. I love this design. This may be my new favorite Trooper at the moment. That changes day to day, but for today, it's this. But there is my one QC issue. Can you see it? The helmet is sitting off to his right. That's because there is a separate head under there, but the helmet is glued down crooked. The chin for the head underneath is actually over here somewhere, which is a shame because on Echo, that's a removable helmet. Perfect world, it would be the same situation here. You remove the helmet, there's a generic clone head underneath. This ain't a perfect world, but I would at least like to have the helmet removable. Leave the head unpainted underneath, Hasbro. I don't mind. Well, that's just speaking for myself. A lot of people would mind. Gluing the helmet down has caused more problems in the past with all the troopers that have that same situation. Now, this being an ARC Trooper, there's stuff laying on top of it that does kind of get in the way of articulation. There's a dumbbell joint at the top of the head with a ball going down into the neck, but because of shoulder pads, you only get this far and this far. Not so much tilt. Can look left and right though. Oh, and the rangefinder does come down. Butterfly joint shifts forward, shifts back. Pin coming out to the arm allows rotation, and again, that softness there goes all the way around. Hinge at the shoulder, but it uses this bigger shoulder pad, and there is just not a lot of room up under there. You can force it, but that's going to be about it. Hinge and swivel at the elbow comes up to there. Again, be careful of that strap coming around the front, and then it rotates. Swivel at the wrist, hinged up and down for a trigger finger, side to side on the left. Uses the new skull clone body without that ridge right here, plus the belt drops down. You're going to get more crunch, more back, more tilt, more tilt. He did the monster mash. Rotation. Here's where we're going to run into some traffic coning. The leg does come up, belt kind of gets in the way, so does the armor. Turn it about right there. Back, out. Yeah, it just runs into all this. Swivel at the thigh, hidden by the armor and the belt and the comma. It is split in the back, so the hinge and swivel knee can come up to about right there. It's about the same as the clone double knee we saw in this same wave. Then you can rotate it. Notice the difference at the ankle too. This goes back a bit. Forward, front-facing pin for rocker. For accessories, the Umbra Operative comes with the same pistol we saw earlier. Only 2 of them. Push in and twist. The left still doesn't have a trigger finger hand. So you can get them holding it, but it's not going to be the prettiest. I usually come along and just cut the trigger finger out. That way, hold it a little bit better. But if you don't want them holding the weapons, you can put them in the holsters. Not a problem at all. The clones stand at about 6 1/8 to the top of their ridges on the helmet. And then the Nightbrother stands at about 5 3/4 to the top of the skull, somewhere in those horns. Which does seem a little short next to Cal Kestis and the New School Stormtrooper, but again, built off the Darth Maul body. And then here's both Battlefront clones next to the New School Trooper and the Old School Trooper. Kind of a size difference, but you can definitely tell which ones feel more natural. So at the end of the day, a fine addition to the Gaming Greats line. If you're not into the video games or variants or repaints, then this is not for you. And that's the beauty of it being at GameStop. They're video game figures at a video game top store. These aren't taking a spot in the main line. These aren't on the pegs at other stores taking up space. These are their own thing. This is just more toys for more people. These are for those who like to add weird, wacky stuff to their main display, or plays the video games and have a emotional connection to these characters, you know? And I know it's simple reuse, but Hasbro has been going out of their way to try to improve things, you know? Like on the Jet Trooper. They did the same as Hawk, where they mixed and matched different parts from different clones, and gave us a fairly nice, just basic clone trooper. The Darth Maul reuse on the Nightbrother is inevitable, but appropriate. This works. I'm still not super happy with that mouth, but if I were to get a second one, I would probably repaint that. As is, I'll leave it like it is, just because it looks gnarly. But you know my favorite is going to be the Umbra Operative, simply because of the paint scheme. I mean, again, this is reuse. We've seen this figure before, but the orange and black does so much to differentiate it, to make it stand out from the other clones. Plus, you know me, it's Star Wars. This is adding to the overall presence on my shelves, in my room. Star Wars is taking over the display room. I'm gonna have to make more space. But if you enjoyed the review, comment, like, subscribe. Much love to the plus. If you're interested in seeing videos early or in a position to help out the channel, patreon.com. But wherever you may be watching this, I'll always catch you on the Fwoosh. Coming back around after the review, I got my side cutters out and just snipped up those lines I was talking about, and maybe a little bit messy, but it flaps out now. It gets out of the way of the legs. Here or out. Well, we're talking about legs that are reused from the first wave of Black Series back 8, 9, 10 years ago.